My mother once told me not everyone is meant to be exceptional, sweetheart. She said it gently, like a kindness. Over coffee in our quiet kitchen, I was 19, freshly commissioned, my uniform still stiff with pride. She didn't mean to hurt me. At least I don't think she did. But that sentence, it cracked something open. It didn't bleed, but it echoed every holiday, every visit home. They never called me a failure, but silence is louder than judgment. When my sister got promoted, they posted like it was a national holiday. When I came back from deployment, no one even came to the airport. You're always so busy, my dad said, like I'd skipped a dentist appointment. Not 7 months of black ops, across borders, no one dares name. That's when I learned coming home doesn't always mean being seen. Let me tell you the rest. My name is Colleen Walsh, oldest daughter of a military family, 3 generations deep in uniform. Service was our only language. My father retired a colonel. My mother wore silence like a medal. My sister, a rising star, promotions, ceremonies, praise. And me, the one they don't mention, the one who couldn't handle it, the one who quit. That's what they believe, that I walked away, that I gave up. But I didn't leave. I was pulled, selected for a covert program, so classified it doesn't exist on paper. No diploma, no photo on the wall, just flight after flight to places no one talks about. In the family album, my face stopped appearing in 2004. A cousin once said I was cropped out to fit the frame. But truth doesn't fit in frames, and mine had no room for perfect stories. Let me show you what they erased. For 20 years, I wasn't gone. I was hidden. I sent birthday flowers to mom, a Christmas card to dad stamped from a fake address in Maryland. I watched from a distance as Erica climbed the ranks. As my brother got married, under a chapel's white arch, I missed nothing, yet somehow I was never in the picture. I once spent 6 months in Damascus, 4 days hiding in the walls of a hostage compound in Libya. 30 civilians lived because of a plan I wrote in complete darkness. In Operation Candlestrike, I lost 3 men, and a part of myself I still haven't found. But there were no headlines, no flags folded for me, no applause, only silence and scars, most of them invisible. Still, I came back, just never home, because in this family, if it isn't on paper, it doesn't count. The call came in early fall, crisp air, gold leaves clinging to summer's edge. It was my mother. Her voice brisk, not unkind, like reading a weather report. Erica's getting promoted, you should come. Just don't wear anything weird, don't make her look bad. No, how are you? No, we'd love to see you. Just instructions. I said I'll be there, not for them. Not for closure, just to see if they'd finally see me. That night, I stood in front of my closet, pulled out my old dress uniform, still folded, still waiting. Next to it, a soft blouse. Quiet colors, clothes that wouldn't ask for attention. In the mirror, I didn't see a hero or a failure, just a woman who'd carried more than they ever knew. Almost time, I whispered, but I didn't know if I meant time to forgive or time to stop pretending. I arrived at Fort Campbell right on time. No one was waiting. No wave from the gate guard. No arms open at the door. The VIP lot was full Lexus SUVs and government plates. I parked by the fence. Gravel cracked under my boots like it still remembered me. The house looked the same. Beige paint, faded porch swing, American flag fluttering in habit, not pride. I stepped inside. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and old paperbacks. My mother stood in the dining room lining up printed name cards. She didn't look up. Go change your shirt, she said. You'll sit next to Erica, but please don't interrupt her speech. No hello, no hug, just rules, like always. My father gave me a pat on the back. Good you made it, he said, eyes already drifting toward someone more worth noticing. Erica entered like a debutante in dress blues. Her bars gleamed. Ribbons perfect. Confidence rehearsed. She moved through the room like she owned it. Handshakes, smiles, praise, effortless grace. When she finally noticed me, she waved a manicured hand. This is my sister, she said. She used to be in the military. For a bit. Then a laugh. Polite, light, the kind that bruises. A cousin leaned in. So, what do you do now? VA office, better than nothing, right? I smiled. Small. No teeth. Let it die there. Inside the walls were shrines, framed photos of pride graduations, medals, perfect poses. I looked for mine, only found a space. The last photo with me was from 2004. A cousin once said they cropped me out to make the frame balanced. They called it symmetry, but I knew it was erasure with good manners. A little girl tugged my sleeve, maybe 6, maybe 7, wide eyes holding a plastic tank. "Did you ever shoot a real gun?" she asked, like it was magic. I knelt down steady. "Sweetheart, I once wrote a plan that helped 30 soldiers come home alive." "That's better than any shot I've ever taken," she blinked, then ran off, dragging the tank through the carpet. Dinner was small, a warm-up event, just family and a few officers. Erica played hostess, perfect posture, effortless charm. Someone raised a glass. "To grace under pressure," they said. She beamed. "I've been practicing my speech," she replied. Then casually, "I want people to know you don't have to walk away from something to realize you were wrong." The room held still, a soft pause. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. Everyone heard it anyway. That night, I slipped outside to the porch. The house behind me buzzed with voices I didn't belong to. I sat on the edge of the steps. No coat, just the night air wrapping around my arms like memory. A brass band practiced in the distance, notes drifting like ghosts. Clear, then broken, then gone again. Inside, they laughed, their voices warm with wine and approval, not mine. I didn't miss the spotlight. I missed being seen without having to prove I'd earned it. The wind moved through the trees, soft, constant, the only thing that didn't ask anything from me. I thought about leaving, just getting in the car and disappearing again. But I stayed, not for them, for the girl I was at 19, the one who still believed coming home might feel like home. Tomorrow would prove her wrong, or right. Morning came quiet. Gray light filtered through the blinds. No knock on my door, no one asking if I'd slept. I unpacked the uniform, still folded, still sharp at the edges, waiting like it always had been. I ran my fingers over the collar, the stitching, the silence in the seams. Next to it, the blouse and slacks. Soft, neutral, safe. I stared at both, two versions of the same story, one that shouted, one that whispered. In the mirror, my face looked tired but steady. No makeup, no medals. Just eyes that had seen too much and stayed open anyway. No applause waited, no speeches for me, but I hadn't come for that. I came to stand in my truth, even if no one clapped, even if no one noticed, because sometimes showing up is the bravest thing you can do. The parking lot was full. By the time I arrived, rows of black sedans and polished shoes stepping onto concrete. No one saved me a spot. I parked near the supply trailers. Dust rose under my boots, quiet recognition from the ground. Inside the hall, everything gleamed. Pressed uniforms, chairs lined in perfect rows, voices buzzed with rehearsed pride, laughter bounced off clean walls. It smelled like starch and ceremony, like things that were planned. I walked in alone. No one turned, no one whispered, not even to ask why I came. I found a seat near the back, not assigned, just available. A folding chair next to the aisle. I sat straight. Shoulders firm, hands still. Years of habit keeping me from shrinking. Somewhere ahead, my family was laughing. They hadn't seen me, but I was already there. And that mattered more than they knew. The ceremony began with the national anthem. Everyone stood, hands raised in practiced unity. I didn't sing. I watched. Let the words pass through me like water over stone. Names were called, ranks announced. Each one followed by claps that sounded close but never quite reached me. Erica's name echoed loudest. The room rose to its feet, a wave of applause like thunder with a smile. She took the stage with polished steps. A spotlight followed her like it had been waiting. I stayed seated, not from bitterness, from knowing. Not all ranks are worn, not all leaders stand at podiums. Some lead in silence, in places where cameras never go. She looked right past me, eyes sweeping the crowd as if I didn't exist. But I was there, solid, still, unshaken in a chair no one thought to reserve. After the ceremony, the room filled with praise, handshakes, photos, glass clinks, and polite smiles. I stood near the edge, not hiding, just not needed. Someone brushed past me. Another offered a nod meant more for courtesy than recognition. My father shook hands with a general near the front, pride shining in his eyes. None of it aimed at me. I didn't expect a speech or thanks. But I'd hoped for something, a glance, a word, proof that I still existed in their stories. My mother passed by carrying a half-empty plate. "Don't forget to grab something to eat," she said without looking up. I smiled, small and steady, not because I felt welcome, but because I'd learned that invisibility is easier when you stop asking to be seen. And yet, even silence has its breaking point. I stepped into the hallway, away from the crowd, just for air or maybe space. The walls were lined with photos, familiar frames filled with everything I wasn't. One was new. Erica in full dress uniform, pinned with pride, surrounded by smiles. I paused, felt my breath slow, then stop. Behind a closed door, I heard voices, soft muffled, but clear enough. "Thank God she didn't wear that uniform," someone said. "She would have ruined the photos." A laugh followed. Light, sharp. I didn't move, didn't cry, just stood there. Like I'd trained to. Still, silent, invisible by design. I wanted to turn the handle, step in, say one sentence that would make them understand. But I didn't, because even truth loses its power when no one's listening. So I stood there, one hand on the door, and let the moment pass. I slipped into the downstairs bathroom, closed the door, locked it without thinking. Silence wrapped around me like armor. The light was dim, flickering slightly. A mirror hung crooked above the sink. I looked at my reflection, not searching for beauty, just for proof that I was still here. Hands on porcelain, I exhaled slow, felt the weight settle in my chest. I wasn't angry, not exactly. Anger burns fast. This was colder. Older, a kind of ache. You learn to carry without limping. They didn't know my story, didn't want to. I'd kept it hidden to protect them from truths too sharp, but silence hadn't saved anyone. It had only made me smaller. And now, even in this small room, I felt the walls closing in. Not from shame, from everything I hadn't said. Yet. I opened my hand, then closed it into a fist. Not out of rage, but to feel something solid. The air felt heavier now, not hot, just full of everything unsaid. In my bag upstairs, my uniform lay folded. It hadn't moved, but somehow it waited. I'd brought it with no plan to wear it, a reminder maybe of who I still was when no one else believed it. I thought of leaving again, quietly, no note, no goodbye. But then I thought, what if this time I didn't shrink? What if I stood still long enough for the truth to catch up? Outside the window, the sky began to dim, soft light slipping down the hallway. And I knew I wasn't done, not with them, but with hiding. Let them see, even if they refused to look. That night, I unzipped the suitcase. The fabric made a soft sound like memory unfolding. My fingers touched the collar again. Worn smooth, but still sharp with purpose. No audience, no reason. Just me and what I'd earned. I laid it out on the bed. Let it breathe. Let myself remember why I ever wore it. Not for them, not for praise, but for the ones who never made it home, for the ones whose names were never printed. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands in my lap, room quiet, mind louder. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing: I wouldn't show up small. No more neutral tones, no more slipping past their comfort. They'd spent years pretending I was gone. Tomorrow they would see exactly what they tried to forget. Morning came quiet, just like before, but something in me didn't feel the same. I rose without hesitation. No second guesses, no soft clothes, no blending in. The dress uniform went on piece by piece, each button a choice to be seen. The mirror caught my shape, not polished, but certain. A woman no longer waiting. Down the hall, voices stirred. Laughter, clinking mugs, the sound of normal. But I moved steady. Boots silent on the hardwood. Not hiding, not announcing, just walking forward into a space that never made room until now. The medals on my chest didn't gleam, but they didn't have to. They weren't for them, they were for me, for the weight I carried alone. And today I wasn't carrying it in the dark. When I stepped into the kitchen, the sound shifted. Forks paused mid-air, conversations thinned. No one said anything, not right away, but their eyes moved from my collar to the ribbons on my chest. My mother looked up, then back down to her coffee, one heartbeat too long. That was all. My father gave a nod, more habit than greeting. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Erica blinked. Just once? then smiled, like I'd worn something slightly out of place. "You're in uniform," she said. Flat. "Not impressed, not surprised. I am," I answered. "Nothing more." The air stretched, thin, like a thread pulled too tight across years of silence. No applause, no welcome. But I didn't flinch, because being seen doesn't always start with kindness. Sometimes it starts with the discomfort of truth. I walked down the hallway, past every framed moment that didn't include me, photos of pride, of them. Their eyes followed not with warmth, but with calculation, like trying to place what didn't fit. My boots echoed on the old wood floor, familiar weight in a house that had never held it. I stood taller, not to prove a point, to remember I had one. A niece whispered to her mother, "Why is she dressed like that?" Her mother hushed her, as if truth was inappropriate at breakfast. No one asked where I'd served. No one asked what I'd seen. They didn't want to know. Because knowing would mean admitting they'd been wrong. So instead, they said nothing. But silence speaks too, and that day, it said more about them than it ever could about me. We moved toward the main hall, chairs being unfolded, name tags lined in rows, everything placed just right. The officers chatted in low tones, clipped, controlled, language built on rank, not relationship. I walked behind them. Not part of the formation, not behind for shame, just forgotten in the plan. A brass band practiced nearby, the same song as yesterday, but today it sounded duller, like memory on repeat. My name wasn't on any list. No assigned seat, no mention in the program. I stood for a moment, watching them set the stage for a story I wasn't meant to appear in. Then I pulled out a chair from the back row, unfolded it myself, sat without waiting. Sometimes dignity looks like not asking. Sometimes pride isn't loud. It's just choosing to stay when they've written you out. The room filled slowly, rows of medals in pressed collars, chatter softened to ceremony, every movement rehearsed. The flag backdrop hung still. Not waving, just watching, its folds stiff in the silence before applause. Erica took her place near the podium, chin high, smile polished, eyes scanning the crowd for cameras, not faces. Our mother sat front row, hands folded, expression unreadable. Like pride filtered through control, I stayed in the back. No angle could crop me out now. I had taken up space, quietly, but fully. The speaker cleared his throat, voices hushed. The ceremony began. I watched Erica's shoulders rise, confident, ready. But just before she spoke, she glanced toward the back. Her eyes caught mine just for a second. Not warmth, not apology, but something flickered. Recognition, maybe, or the weight of a name she tried to forget. Erica stepped up, took the mic with ease, her voice steady, her tone rehearsed. She thanked the room, the officers, our parents, the legacy of discipline and duty. Every word fell into place like a puzzle she'd solved years ago. She spoke of sacrifice, of honor, of staying the course, even when it's hard. Then she paused. Just long enough. "I've learned that walking away doesn't always mean weakness," she said. "Sometimes it's just giving up." Laughter. Soft, controlled, the kind people share when they feel safe. I didn't move, didn't blink, but my jaw tightened. She never looked at me again. She didn't have to. The message had already landed, wrapped in professionalism, tied with grace. A gift meant to dismiss, without leaving fingerprints. But some things don't need to be named to cut deep. Applause followed her final line, polite, measured, the kind that ends quickly. People stood, congratulated, took photos near the podium, backs turned toward the rest of the room. No one approached me, no handshake, no glance. I sat still, hands resting on my knees, breath even. A colonel passed behind me, didn't stop, didn't see me, or chose not to. It didn't sting the way it used to. That's what time does. It does not erase pain, just teaches you where to store it. I stood slowly, letting the weight of the moment settle into my spine. I didn't wait to be invited, didn't linger for niceties. I walked toward the back door, quiet steps in a room full of noise, not retreating, not defeated, just done, letting them write the ending without me. Outside, the sky was wide and open, no ceiling, no silence pressing down. The wind carried dust across the parking lot, dry, sharp, familiar. I walked alone, boots hitting gravel, each step lighter than the last, not because it didn't hurt. It did, but because I wasn't shrinking to fit them anymore. Behind me, the building buzzed with celebration, the kind I used to long for. Now it felt small. I reached my car, set my bag in the trunk, took one last glance at the house where I was raised but never really seen. My reflection in the window looked calm, not victorious, not broken, just full, like something had returned after being gone too long. This wasn't closure, it wasn't revenge, it was release. And maybe that was more powerful than being applauded ever could be. I had just opened the driver's door when my phone buzzed, an unknown number. No name, no clue. For a second, I almost let it ring, but something in me paused and answered. Ma'am, a voice said, calm, controlled, military tone. This is Colonel Abrams. We've got a situation, requesting your presence at command immediate. I didn't speak, just listened. Felt everything around me still. It had been years since I'd heard that tone with my name behind it. I looked back once at the house, the chairs, the flag, the place I never fit. Then forward, at the road I knew better than any hallway in that home. I said, understood, I'm on my way. Hung up. This time, I wasn't running from anything. I was returning to where I'd always belonged. The road stretched ahead, straight endless, cutting through fields of dry grass and unspoken things. I drove without music, no distractions, just the hum of tires and the weight of return. Every mile peeled something away, the sting of rooms I never belonged to, the quiet insults dressed as concern, the photos I wasn't in. My hand stayed steady on the wheel, not clenched, just sure. The farther I got, the more I felt like myself again. Not their version, not their ghost, just me. Sharp, present, undeniable. No need for approval, no hunger for applause. Only purpose, the kind that never needed permission to exist. I didn't know what waited at the other end of the call, but I knew this, whatever it was, I was ready. Not because I'd healed, but because I had stopped hiding. The gate was just as I remembered. Steel, still, unmoved by time. I rolled down the window, presented my ID. The guard scanned it, then looked up twice. Welcome back, ma'am. A pause. Not protocol. Respect. I nodded once. Drove through. The base opened around me, familiar roads, old shadows, buildings stood in rows, lights blinking, people moving with purpose. I parked without thinking, same lot, same spot I used to take when I belonged without question. Inside, the air changed, cool, controlled, focused. A young lieutenant approached. He didn't ask my name. He knew. Ma'am, they're waiting for you upstairs. He didn't ask what I was doing here, didn't question my rank, only held the door. And for the first time in years, no one needed proof. I was seen without needing to explain a thing. The hallway was quiet. Polished floors, muted footsteps, the kind of stillness only purpose allows. I walked steady, no rush, no doubt. Each step felt familiar, not from memory, but from muscle. Officers lined the walls, reading files, whispering, waiting. As I passed one by one, they looked up and stayed looking. Not curiosity, not confusion, recognition. A senior officer straightened, then saluted. The others followed quick, precise, unforced. I nodded back. Once. Enough. At the end of the corridor, the thick door stood open, a room beyond it buzzing with quiet command. I stepped through, not to announce myself, but to take my place. I didn't need to belong. I already did. And this time there was no mistaking who was walking in. Inside, the room was full. Chairs occupied, charts glowing on screens, conversations halted. The moment I entered, someone at the far end stood. A commander. Sharp suit, silver trim, eyes that scanned like radar. He paused, then spoke, not to anyone else. To me, ma'am, he said, voice steady but with weight. You're the general. The words hit, without force, but everything in the room changed. People straightened, voices lowered. Silence wrapped the space like respect, not for rank, not just for a title, for presence. I nodded, not out of pride, but clarity. All those years invisible in the places that should have known me, and here in one sentence I was fully seen, not as a sister, not as a daughter, as myself. And for the first time in decades, the air finally fit my name. No one spoke, but every eye turned, not with question, with certainty. I walked forward, no hesitation, no need to prove. They already knew. The briefing paused. A junior officer stepped aside, offered his seat without being asked. I didn't take it. I remained standing because that moment wasn't about comfort. It was about presence. Someone whispered, "She's here," like confirmation of something long awaited. Not one person asked about my service record. No one needed a resume, only my name, General Walsh. Not daughter, not dropout, not the one they forgot. In this room, I wasn't a story they tried to fix. I was the answer to a question no one else could carry, and somehow it didn't feel like arrival. It felt like return to the version of me that never needed applause to stand tall. The screen lit up with mission data, names, coordinates, high risk, high stakes. I listened, arms at my sides, not commanding, just present. A younger officer turned to me, waited. Not for permission, but guidance. I gave a quiet nod, and that was enough. No speech, no orders, just trust, earned in silence. Held in every scar no one in that room had to see. They didn't ask what I'd done to be here. They knew. Not from files, not from rank, but from the way the room shifted when I stood still. For once, I wasn't carrying the weight of being overlooked. I was carrying the weight of being counted on. And it didn't feel heavy. It felt right, like my silence had never been absence. It had always been readiness. When the briefing ended, they handed me a file. Classified, heavy only in meaning. I took it quietly. No questions, no performance, just understanding. Inside was the next step, the next mission. But this one didn't feel like escape. It felt like return. I stood near the window. The base below moved like clockwork. Precise. Alive. For years I thought I was gone. Erased. Folded out of view. But maybe I was just being prepared. All those years of silence had taught me one thing. Real strength never demands attention. It just shows up when others can't. I closed the file, pressed it against my chest. Not for protection, but as a promise to myself. I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the one they quietly trusted to hold what no one else could, and now I finally trusted myself to carry it. I walked back down the hallway. Same walls, same silence, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. Every step put more distance between who I was and who I had to be to survive. I passed a framed photo, one I was never in, and for the first time, it didn't sting. It just looked incomplete. Not wrong, not cruel, just unfinished. Some stories don't need rewriting, they need release. I stopped by the exit, glanced once over my shoulder, not hoping someone would follow, just saying goodbye to what I no longer carried. The sun fell through the glass, landing soft on the floor. A light that didn't ask questions, and for the first time, I didn't need anyone to say they were proud. Because I was. Of what I'd done, of what I'd endured, of who I still was without applause. I tossed my bag into the back seat, no ceremony, just motion, like the end of a quiet shiv. The road ahead was open. No destination, just direction. And for once, that was enough. The base faded in the mirror, not like loss, like release. I rolled the window down, let the wind wash over my face. It smelled like dust, like freedom with no edge. No family waiting, no headlines, just a woman driving toward what was finally hers. Flashes, face relaxed. I thought about Damascus, Libya, about the names I never said out loud, about the soldiers I'd held when the world forgot them. None of that made the news. None of it made the scrapbook. But it made me. I remembered their eyes, their breath, their silence. It sounded like mine. For the first time, the past didn't chase me. It walked beside me, and I didn't flinch. I'd survived for them, and now I was living for me. Later that night, I opened a notebook. The pages were blank, but they didn't scare me anymore. I wrote my name at the top, not for anyone else, but to remind myself that I existed in full. No edits, no footnotes, no family approval required, just truth, as it happened, as I carried it. Because when no one tells your story, you have to write it with your own breath. If you're still here, thank you. This wasn't about blame, it was about becoming. Maybe you felt invisible too. Maybe someone made you feel small because they couldn't see your whole story. If you've carried silence, you're not alone. Drop a listening in the comments, or just tell me where you're watching from, because knowing someone's out there makes telling the truth a little easier. I'm not bitter. Not anymore. You can't carry both truth and resentment without one breaking you. I chose truth. I was never the failure. I was the one doing what no one could name. And I would do it again, not for them, but for me. For who I became in the quiet. My name is Colleen Walsh, oldest daughter of the Walsh family. General, quiet survivor. And this was my story, not the one they told, the one I lived. If it reached you, if it made you feel less alone, consider subscribing. It helps this truth go further, because someone out there is still waiting to be seen, and maybe that someone is you. If any part of this stayed with you, leave a comment. I'd truly like to know what it stirred in you, and if you want more stories that don't always make the front page but matter just the same, hit subscribe. There's more I haven't told, and maybe some of it sounds a little like you.